We're starting again. Believe it or not, folks, this is take 2, which for me is pretty good, don't you think? Because I know it takes about 10 takes for me to operate my equipment, but this is GlobalNow.
Yeah. Wait, let me make sure. Hello. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No
if you try to turn
confidence.
it off
No,
and on,
no
if you try to turn it
confidence.
off and on again, got you.
Well,
We're Epoch Coffee though. On North Loop.
there we go. Thank you. That was the intro. Epoch's a very cool place. I think you said what's 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
here?
24 hours a day, full of nerding, gaming, and anything else you do.
In
Caffeinated.
North Loop in Austin. To be
North
clear
Austin.
about this, we're in Austin today with a good friend of mine. He's an expert. He's brilliant in what he does. You'll hear more about that in a minute. His name's Terrence. He's going to be able to introduce himself. Because today we're going to talk, it's still somewhat within a QA theme, but it's specific to the whole SDET practice. And Terrence will be able to explain what that really means here in a moment. And we'll talk, of course, a bit more about AI and how AI is impacting the whole SDET world. So
we're looking at the world and engineering in general.
In general, yes. And that, of course, spills over into the SDET practice, right? So I'm looking forward to what Terrence has to say on this. And with that being said, Terrence, would you introduce yourself again?
Once again, hi, I'm Terrence. 25 years in IT, 16 years in quality engineering, second generation nerd, early on gamer, computer addict, all that, high school, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I've worked for private and public spaces, college, Amazon, AT&T, Verizon. I believe in interoperability and finding where quality fits into all those spaces, no matter the domain. My current foray has been into gaming, which was a weird intersection of math, networking, hardware, software, physics, representation, and art, where artists, basically you build tools that artists get to utilize to create software. So it's a very unique perspective on engineering because you let the artists create where they want.
There's a lot of overlap there in a way, or some overlap between art and engineering, would you not say?
Oh, absolutely. And then math and everything else. But the interesting thing is you build the tools to let them paint.
I got it.
So it's a different perspective on product design and development.
So I got one quick question. What's your last name?
Adams.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Since neither one of us said that.
Terrence Adams. So I've been around for a while.
Yes, but not near as long as me. So he's a young guy. He's a young guy.
Up.
I wish you would. It's not going to happen. So let's start with a quick definition of what an SDET is and a little bit about what that entails in practice. I know there's a lot there, but if you can share a little bit more about that, it'd be a good spot.
SDET, software development, engineering, and test. In theory, is just a software engineer that specializes in the testing, but it normally falls into one or two categories where you have basically developers that write tests, and that's their main focus is building unit functional tests and everything else, or scripting tests around code. And then you have more of the quality engineering space where you build solutions, reverse engineer products and everything else. And it's more of a supporting the domain and your specific niche. Whatever it is your features are, your products, you get invested. So you're not allowed to just write tests. You have to understand everything and
you have
realize
to understand
how to
everything about the application or about the business.
Business logic and everything else. It's your job to enforce and get technical. You can't be afraid to read code, ask questions, sit in meetings, challenge engineers about preconceptions and everything else.
So that's the engineering background mostly that allows them to do that.
The ability to read code and understand is essential, but the longer you get into it, if you're crazy like me, you become more of an architect. You start thinking about things from a holistic standpoint, end to end on the system, from input to database and back.
So that's phenomenal. It seems like that's a strong skill set. How does the QA come in? How much QA background is typically required? I guess that's my question. So you got all the engineering, because there's a philosophy around QA as well, right? So
there's a
few. So how important is that? Is it
quality?
A combination?
So we always talk about the unicorn, and one of the things I love to do is review resumes and then put people in interviews. I don't give coding assignments. I do critical thinking tests because I want to see how someone adapts to lack of information and to have specific requirements and restrictions and everything else, and ask the right questions to show me. If I give you 3/4 of a puzzle, can you figure out the other 25%?
Which plays into the quality verification and validation.
So asking the right questions.
I like that.
An inquisitive mind, but understanding the domain. So one of the things I do is what I call the testing tree. And the roots of that are always fundamentally object-oriented programming practices, understanding verification for nulls, upper lower bounds, ceiling limits, validation, zeros, negative numbers.
So
like
fundamentals.
Fundamentals of software. Even if I know nothing about the product, you give me code, I know to check for required fields. I know how to do conversion going from, if this is a data type event, I go over that. What does the code do? It's just fundamental things of knowing how to break software.
So to me, that is the QA side of it. There's the engineering side of it. I get that. But having that inquisitive mind that you talk about, the curiosity to break things.
The first job of any good quality engineer is to ask questions. The second is to assume nothing.
That's just the opposite of what I do.
That's opposite of what most developers do, in my opinion. You have to make a decision when you develop because there's multiple ways to do the same thing. If you don't ask good questions, you have to act under your own assumption and hope the QA catches anything you missed.
Yeah, I got it. So in that case, then these SDETs, they're really strongly skilled people, right? Both in the engineering side and the QA.
Good ones.
And there's obviously good ones out there. So if that's the case with the advancement of AI, especially when it comes to addressing coding challenges and requirements, how is that affecting the SDET role, for instance? It seems like they'd be susceptible maybe to either embracing or being discouraged from some of these tools that are out there. So what's your thinking on that?
There's a lot of ways to use AI, and it also depends on what kind of AI you're talking about. You can even go back to the fundamentals of AI with machine learning and understand patterns and large data sets and everything else. So there's value in that. Understanding test scope, where you have the most frequent incidents, most historical bugs and critical issues found, the severity, everything else.
Is AI being used to do that today?
Depends on the company. The smart ones are leveraging it. And then there's the chat GPT, generative AI, where you can do certain skill sets. I can feed it a CSV or an Excel file and have it go through and look for patterns or create diagrams and everything else. And then there's the GitHub Copilot, where if I provide prompt examples and I have my code base open, I am, hey, write me tests for this, for these endpoints and these functions, it'll spit that out. And then I go through and improve. Things about when you're doing AI coding is, first of all, you have to know what you're looking for. So that's the fundamental thing, because the solutions are imperfect and you have to know how to implement it. So there are still hallucinations where it invent classes and functions that don't actually go anywhere, properties that don't exist.
But I think what you described to me is a landscape where AI is not just being used to help generate code within the SDET world, but also to do some of these other functions, such as pattern analysis, understanding maybe risk, deeper level. So is it unlimited opportunity here to embrace AI within the QA SDET?
AI is all how you want to use it. So it's not a magic bullet. I tell people now, if you're going to deal with AI and get the most out of it, you got to treat it like an 8-year-old. First of all, you got to know the nature of your question. What are you really asking it? And then you have to be willing to provide step by step. And most of the best AI systems are step by step, where you give one set of requirements, you get an output, funnel that into the next. And to that point, that's why the next major push is agentic systems, where they've actually created
the workflow.
Exactly. In my opinion, in the last year, one of the greatest additions to that is an external context. Historically, like conversation or silo independent. So you have to generate a file and then upload and start the whole conversation again to the next one. Whereas with these agentic systems, where companies like IBM and some of these others are building these workflows, and they have a container that maintains certain aspects of it. So your input and output goes from one standpoint to the next. And the other thing is understanding, to get the most out of AI, you have to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish for a very specific task. And that's where the systems come in, because you can have something specialized in doing one thing.
That makes sense.
And then you get the output, you pass it on to another AI engine that specializes in something else. And then you have one that validates all the results, make sure that they look consistent. So just having one AI is not going to do what you want it to do.
You're going to have to orchestrate this.
It's networking and architecture.
So I've got a question for you. We're coming up on 10 minutes, but there's so much here. I'm going to ask you, are you willing to do another one of these?
Absolutely.
So the technical side of this is really interesting. Once you get deeper in that, I think you have some chops there, Terrence. So we'll leverage those. I can tell you how much I appreciate you doing this and suggesting the cool coffee spots. Always fun with you. The tequila ones. And the tequila ones, absolutely. I look forward to this next one. Maybe we'll do a whole series here that's just going to be so popular. So thanks again, everyone. This is the end of the Tech Talk for now. We will be having another one, Terrence. As you can see, this is invaluable information. I'm looking forward to this. Adios from Austin.